Alright, in this video we're going to revisit the map feature of KLWP, using a Google static map to show on our custom live wallpaper. And in this tutorial the request I got was, the ability to be able to have a map that you can move around. As you can see, I'm kind of just going through different parts of my map, and we can scroll this way. At any given point I can touch this little thing right here. We go right back to center. And if we go 2 clicks either up, down, left, or right, now notice I'm saying up, down is at 2. If I press this, it's going to go back to center. If I go down 2 clicks, I press it again, I'm back at center. And as long as none of these numbers pass 2 or -2, notice like now I got them both at 2 and 2. If I go right, that's going to knock this back to 0. If I go up again, it's going to knock it back to 0. Now we can adjust this to do even more clicks if you would like. I just did 2 for the sake of this video. Not only that, we can also zoom. I got a little progress bar over here, so notice this little progress bar is going to change. Now it's going to take a minute for it to update, obviously, to pull that new image from Google, but this little progress bar here shows what zoom level I'm at. So I can knock this zoom. Notice that bar is moving down, and this right here, if I come all the way down to zoom at 1, notice I have 1 bar here. That's going to probably be all the way out in freaking outer space somewhere or something, but nonetheless, give it a second to update, and boom, there we go. See? And now I can cycle through this way if I want to go back to 20. I have it set to 20 and we can go either way. Notice that little bar is changing. Yes, I know my dock is sliding out on us, but that's because I have double tap set up on Nova, so ignore the dock down here at the bottom. But we can adjust this zoom however we want. Alright, not only that, also in this tutorial we will look at being able to change the type of map that we have. So right now we have road map. Let me bump it on up a little bit more. We can change this to terrain, give it a second to update. Alright, so maybe you did notice a little bit of terrain getting updated there. It actually shows, like, I guess some hills or whatever. Satellite, that's going to give you an actual picture. And hybrid, it gives you, I don't know, I can't remember. Give it a second to update. Okay, so it's that. It's hybrid. It's a mixture of the satellite, I guess, and the names. So we can go through those 4 types. So a lot to cover here. Now, revisiting this, I did have some people saying, some folks are saying, hey, it works fine. Some folks are saying it doesn't work. So I followed back through my tutorial I did. This is a rather old video, but I still use Map Styler, but I know there's snazzy maps. There's tons of templates out there where you can edit all these colors. I recommend, for those of you still having trouble, start around the 12-minute mark of this video. That's after I've created all these colors and I'm getting that JSON file and I'm doing a little bit of changing of the code that I put into my custom live wallpaper. Make sure you pay attention to that real close, because I did those exact same steps earlier and I got it to work just fine. So the majority of this tutorial is going to be geared towards making this stuff move and showing you how to get various pieces, changing your map and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and have a look. And we're going into KLWP, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is the actual map itself. So I got a text global variable, and the URL is a little bit different than the URL I used to use, so maybe this might help you if you're having trouble. But there's some things we want to take into consideration here. So we got maps dot blah 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 center equals. Now make sure you type this in exactly like you see it. Notice that question mark, and center equals. Well, down here in my code I got center equals this code, this little function for latitude and longitude. I think in my older video I used one from Reddit. Well, now I'm just using the latitude and longitude that I get from the function in KLWP. So no math getting done there, just 2 functions, put a comma in between them. And then I have zoom equals GV zoom. I have a global variable set up for zoom. Notice zoom is showing 15 up here. And map type equals GV type. Well, GV type right now is road map. I'll show you all this stuff in a second. And the size, very important here. You want to make the size a square shape, or at least that's what's working for me. And I'm doing 1280 by 1280. Basically the pixels, I think the pixels on my Galaxy Note 4 are 1280 this way. Well, I want to make it 1280 both ways. So 1280 across and 1280 down. So we have a big square, so to speak. And then also you may have noticed that I had a marker. I have that marker also set. So notice it says and markers equals the same code that I have up here for center. It's going to put a little red marker wherever I am. And then one more thing too, scale equals 2. This is going to, I think, double your pixel density or something like that. Nonetheless, where does all this stuff come from? Where do I pick up a little bit more information about that? And that is over here at this website right here. So Here we go, scrolling down through some of these things to give you an idea. Feel free to fast forward through this, but just want to show you where I got a little bit of this information. The center, so notice we use the center, and I did use a latitude and longitude. Parameters, size. The size, I chose a 1280 by 1280. Scale, here it is. Scale equals 2. So notice I have scale equals 2. I do find that the picture is more crisp when I had the scale set to 2 versus 1. I didn't do anything with format. Map type, we have 4 map types: road map, satellite, hybrid, and terrain. We looked through all 4 of those at the beginning of the video. So I have a global set up so I can cycle through those. And what else? Markers. So I did markers. I didn't do anything with the colors. I don't think I was able to get that to work, but nonetheless I have a red marker that shows up at the center. So just have a read over that, a little bit of literature on getting that web address set up correctly with the different parameters. Now, all these globals that we have in here, well, this is not a global, this is not a global. That is, GV type is a global. Are those the only 2 that I have in here? I think so. Oh, zoom and type. Yeah, I think those are the only 2. Well, what type of globals are they? Zoom is just a list global, and I have it set from 1 through 20. Yes, you could easily do a text global for this as well, but I'm becoming just as big a fan as list global as I am the text global. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 20, or how many ever zooms you want to do. I think there is a set number, but 20 will do just fine. 1 will put you right over the top of your head, or 1 will put you in outer space looking down, and 2 will be right over top of your head pretty much. Let's see, type, roadmap, another list global. These 4 types are the ones that I showed you right back over, where'd you go? Anyway, I mentioned it a little while ago. It was written over here somewhere, but you want to type these in exactly like you see them. And what else do we need? Those are the only 2 globals that are using that code. So the other globals, this is where it's going to come in adjusting a few things. Okay, up down is a text global. Right now you can create it, set it to 0. Create a left right global, set it to 0. This will be changing. We do want to do a list global for this. At least I recommend that. Ease, oh yeah, ease, this is an animation thing that we can do. I didn't even mention this, but I can change the ease. I think I've done this in previous tutorials. Let's see here. Let's go to bounce. Let's watch what happens if I change ease to bounce. Watch this up here. Notice it kind of bounces as I cycle through my animations. It's kind of hard to tell, and the reason why, I know exactly why. If I bump the duration up a little bit, now watch what happens. So see how it kind of bounces as I go through the map? Boom, 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 boom. All right. And let's see what happens there. Yeah, so it kind of bounces around. I actually like that. Duration, obviously that's changing the length of time it takes it to actually go from one click to the next. If I bump the duration down real low, notice it's going to do it real quick. Those bounces are barely even noticeable because I'm bouncing so fast, the duration. If I bump this up to 10, notice that animation, it does bounce a little bit more and it's a little bit slower. Speed is something we want to also add. So we got a bunch of other globals in here. Size, that's going to adjust the size of our clip. A clip will be used here. I think I had that around 540. Button size, that's going to move all these buttons inside and out. I have all of those inside of an overlap group, I believe. I mentioned duration. I have it set from 1 to 10. Speed, I don't know what I have it set to. It's up to 100. That's going to adjust how far this thing actually animates. For example, if I keep speed at 37, let me go back to center. So here I am at, if I go 1 click and then I go 2 clicks up, it's already bumping the map off the screen. So I need to bump that speed down a little bit, and probably right about there, maybe 25 is where I had it before. That's going to keep the map as I bounce through this thing right now. Notice we don't ever see the edge of the map. So it's like it's behind this little window right here, if you will. So a bunch of globals. I want to show all those to you first. I don't think I missed anything there. So now let's go ahead and look at the setup of this thing. Let's start off with the clip. The clip is going to be exactly what you see right here. This actual curved square, that is not the map. This curved square is a clip, and to show you that, if I go over to FX and if I just go to none, all we see now, okay, let me come back to color. It's color set. Let me save this and go back to the home screen. We should be seeing, okay, maybe not. This actually lets you see everything in action without the clip there, though, obviously. Let me go see why that's not showing up correctly. Let me apply a gray, or whatever color that is. Oh, the reason why that's not showing is because the clip is behind the map. But notice there's our square. Okay, finally, there it is. I'm going to put this. This is the only part of the map I want to see. So right now, as I go through these buttons, you can see all of the map. But when we put this clip here and put the map in front of it, but when we go to clip and we go to FX, we go to mask, we go to clip next module, that will clip the map. So all that map that you just saw is there, but we're just clipping this part here. So it's like we're seeing it through a window or whatever you want to call it. Make sure you have the clip set here and then the map set right beneath that. So let's go to map and look and see. The map, I have it set up to width is the height of my screen, and also the height is set to the height of my screen. These are custom functions, so set it up like that. Go over to FX, go to texture and set it to bitmap, add a calculator function, and all I'm doing here is using that first global variable that I showed you. GVMap was that entire URL where I had zooms and the map types and all that stuff, so GVMap is going to be tuned to that. That's going to pull that image from the internet, and that's what's this little map image that you see that's also being clipped right now. That's it for map. Make sure you get your sizes right. Let's go ahead and talk about all these buttons. Let's do the easy ones first. Okay, the buttons, I do have a square set up. It's an invisible square, and basically that square is built to GV button size. The button size is basically that thing as you saw a moment ago. If you remember, I did have all these buttons kind of scrolling back into the center. Should you want this thing to be bigger or smaller, you can easily adjust it that way. But nonetheless, you don't really have to put that there. If you want your buttons to be in another spot, that's just for me to show you. I'll come back to the up, down, left, right here in a moment. Let's go to this one right here. Which one is this? Okay, the magnifying glass. Now, what we have going on here, I think it's worth me to, well, no, I'll just go ahead and show you this. So we got a zoom in button, whatever you want to create to make a zoom in. So I'm toggling my global switch. I'm toggling the zoom global switch. And if you recall, zoom was the one that has those 1 through 20s. I just have it set to next value. So it's going to go bump up, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So as I press this thing, notice I have a little teaching purposes up here. It says zoom is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and I can go right back and it'll always go to the next value. Well, the same thing is happening for the magnifying glass this way, and that is going to be this one right here, search minus. I have its touch set to global, or toggle the global switch zoom, previous values. That's what's going to let us count backwards. Notice this thing here, if you can see that, it says zoom is 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and we can go all the way back to 20, and then, it kind of cycles through. That's why I like the list global variable just as good as the text, because we don't have to use a cycle thing to knock it back to a certain value. However, don't get me wrong, the text global variable is still useful, and it will be useful in this video. Other things that we can do real quick, the thing up here, that's what actually lets us change our map. That is going to be this one right here. So if I go to touch on that, toggle global switch was type, and notice, or remember, type was the ones where I had the 4 different map types that we can get from Google. So by us setting next value to that, we can just go from hybrid to road map to terrain to satellite, and then once it gets to satellite, it goes back to hybrid. So it'll cycle through them using the next value feature. I don't think it's necessary to have a previous value, since we can just kind of go through 4 values real quick. Notice this word here says road map. Boom, that says terrain, satellite, hybrid, now it's back at road map. So that's going to cycle through those various map types that we have. What else? Okay, the thing down here at the bottom, what this is going to do, and I haven't even talked about the movement piece. I'm saving the best for last. How do we get this thing to move like you see right here? How do we get all that going on? Well, I'm going to show you that right here in a second. But what this thing will do in the bottom left-hand corner, if I can find that one, is the font icon place. Touch, I have it toggling 2 global switches. Now we're going to start talking about the movement. When those two globals or text globals that I showed you earlier in the video, the up, down, and the left, right, if you recall, what did we set those to? We had them set to 0. Well, basically, that's what I want that button to do. So toggle global switch up, down, we automatically want to set that text global to 0, and we want to do the same thing to left and right. So set left, right to 0. Basically, what this is going to do, check out these numbers up here at the top. Now maybe it might be helpful, but hopefully you can see this. Up, down right now is set to 2. Left, right is set to -2. If I press this button right here, they both go back to 0, and it takes you right back to the center of your screen or wherever your location is. That's how I have it set up. Hopefully you can see that. Make sure, I mean, it's kind of clear, but nonetheless, that's what that button's going to do. Regardless of where I am, now my up, down is at -1, my left, right is at +2. If I press this, it takes me right back to 0, 0. All right? Now, let's talk about these arrows. What do I have these arrows doing? At the beginning of the video, and I think somewhere else along the way, I mentioned I can go 2 clicks up, and then once I'm up at 2 clicks, if I press it again, it's going to take that back to 0. I can go 2 clicks down. Same thing happens, back to 0. We can do 2 of them to the right, back to 0, 2 clicks to the left, and we can go back to 0. Or any combination. You know, here I'm at -2, but again, if you're right here, you just want to get back to 0 real quick, press that button right there. So hopefully you're getting the idea. Now, how am I doing that? Well, let's talk about what these buttons do. Okay, so the up button, this is an up-down adjustment. So I'm going to go over to its touch. I'm toggling global switch up, down. Now look at this code. It's not just set to 1. This code is the following. If GV up, down is less than the number of clicks that you want to take, I said 2 clicks is what I want to do. So if I'm less than 2 clicks, I want to add 1 to that text global variable. If I'm not less than 2 clicks, I want to reset it back to 0. That's exactly what you saw happen a moment ago. I went 2 clicks up, and when I pressed it again, it went back to 0 because I was no longer less than 2. This is where the text global variable does have a little one-up piece, if you will, over the list global variable. Is the ability for us to cycle back to a specific value, not just a numbered list value in our list global variable, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't, but that's the up button. So the up button is going to add 1. It's going to add 1 to this again. And now when I press this button again, since the up down is not going to be less than 2, this is going to go back to 0. Watch. Boom, it's back to 0. Well, the GV or up down, the other one, the other down button, we got up, we got down. So let's go to the down button here. Let's look at its touch. And now check out its code. If GV up, down is greater than -2, so I'm thinking like y-axis. You go up, +2, down, that's going to be a negative number. So if our GV up, down is greater than -2, we want to subtract 1 from this thing. So we're going to keep subtracting 1, subtracting 1, subtracting 1 as long as GV up, down is greater than -2. Well, what if it's not greater than -2? We want to reset it back to 0. So let's see this in action. If I press this, right now up, down is at 0. So if I press it, it's going to take it down. It's going to take it down again. Now it's equal to -2. So now it's going to knock it back to 0. But what's cool about this is that if I come way up here to 2, I can still use my down button to subtract 1, subtract 1, subtract 1, subtract 1, back to 0. Doorbell's ringing. Be right back. So I mentioned those things, the up-down piece. Let's just save this. Let's go back to the home screen. And I got to get better with remembering to make stuff full screen sometimes because I know sometimes I show you stuff on websites, but now, boom, this thing's a lot clearer. I know. Anyway, here we go. So we're at 0, 0, but I'm focusing on the up-down right now. So if I press up, it's going to add 1 to it because GV up-down is less than 2. Well, if I press it again, it's going to go up again because GV up, down was less than 2. But now it's going to reset this back to 0. And notice we got that bounce effect going on. Same thing's going to happen in this direction, except now we're going to subtract 1 because the code for this one is if GV up down is greater than -2, we want to subtract 1. Boom, we subtracted 1 again. Now remember this code, if GV up down is less than -2, we want to subtract 1 from it. If it's not, we want to set it to what? 0. Check it out, we're back to the center. So we're back to 0. Well, very similar here in this direction. So we got y-axis, positive, positive. If I go back to 0, now my y-axis is negative, negative, back to 0. But again, it's very cool because you can go down. Suppose you went down to here, but instead of going back to 0 for some weird reason, if you want to do this, you can just press up and it's going to go through it this way. So I think that's pretty cool to have. And again, at any time, press this button here, you're back to 0, 0 automatically. Very similar for the right and left. If we go right, except now this code is going to be the following. If GV left right, when I press this button right here, if GV left right is less than 2, which it is, I want to add 1 to it. So watch this. It's going to add 1 to it. Boom. And notice we're going to the right. I'm going to show you the animations in a second. Just go along with the text global code for right now. Well, is this thing still less than 2? Sure is. Well, it's going to add 1 to it again. Boom. We added 1 to it. Now GV left right is 2. When I press this again, what do you think is going to happen? GV left right is no longer less than 2. It's going to set it back to 0. Okay, think about this code. So that was x-axis is positive, going in this direction. Now what's going to happen in this direction? So when we press this button, what do you think is going to happen? Well, this code here, left right, this one is if GV left right is greater than -2, we want to subtract 1 from it. Well, right now left right is 0. So if it's greater than -2, we're going to subtract 1. Boom. All right. Let's do it again. Is GV left right greater than -2? Yes. Well, let's subtract 1 from it. Boom. Now is GV left right greater than -2? Nope. So what's it going to do? Set it back to 0. And what's cool? Notice we can kind of combine our ups and downs. We can go all across this map. Left, right, up, down, and it's going to go all over the place. Come down this way, and at any point in time, this right here, remember this automatically sets both of these back to 0. Here we go. Just like that, we're back to center. All right, now let me go show you those codes. I told them to you right here, but I want to make sure you get those typed in correctly, so I'm going to go show you those 2 buttons as well. So we got the right button, that's this one right here. Let's go over to touch. That's toggling the left right. And remember that code? If GV left right is less than 2, we want to add 1 to GV left right. Otherwise, we want to set it back to 0. Let's go back to the left arrow button. And if we go to touch, toggle global switch, look at this code. If GV left right is greater than -2, we want to subtract 1 from it. Remember, x-axis, right is positive, left is negative. So we want to subtract 1 from it as long as it's greater than -2. Or what if it's not? We want to set it to 0. There's our code for that one. So again, a good application of the text global variable there. And now, I guess the grand finale for this, if you want to call it that, is going to be the actual animations. How in the heck is this map moving? Since our map is so freaking big, it's a big old square, that's what's allowing us to have parts of the map hidden here, 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 or over here that we can't see. And remember, we had that clip blocking all of that. Well, I'm back in my map. I'm going to go over to animation, and we do have several animations going on here. I was saving the worst part for last. If you're looking at it now, you're like, oh my gosh. But anyway, here we go. I think the first 2 that I focus on are the up movements. So formula scroll. I'm going to go back up to the top one. So all of them are formula scroll. Now, for this first one, let me check some things. Now, back at the beginning of the video, let's go ahead and address all this stuff now. Ease. For all these animations, for every single one of these, I have GVEs, because that's what I had: the bounce, the normal, the overshoot, straight. I had all those set up in a list global variable. So if we link that to the global variable, we can quickly change the type of animation that happens. Right now, I know it's not ease or normal. What is it on? Bounce. Yeah, that's why it's bouncing around. Let's talk about these other things too. Duration, I had a GV dur. That's how long it takes for it to complete the animation. Remember that one from the beginning of the video? The GV speed, you definitely want to have this, because if you change the size of it, you're going to have to adjust that speed so that the map doesn't scroll off the screen. But all of those globals here are linked together, or those are going to be used in all of the animations. So make sure you understand that. I'm not going to go back and cover that on every single animation. However, yes, let's look at the formula for this particular one. This formula here, if GV up down is equal to 1, I want to move this animation forward. Otherwise, I want to move it back. But technically, I'm not really going to move it back, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. But definitely, if GV up down is 1, I want to move it forward. Okay? Let's roll with that. Well, which way is this? Let me set everything back to 0. This one is set at an angle of 90. If I press play on this, this is what's going to move it up. When GV up down is 1, it's going to move it up like it did there. How fast do we want it to go? GV speed. All right. Now, let's go to the second animation, because now we got to talk about what happens if GV up down is equal to 2. This is the second animation. So if GV up down is equal to 2, we want to move this animation forward. So this is a second animation now. Be careful with this one. Notice I have my same globals, but boom, the speed is going to be different. We want to do 2 times GV speed. Basically, this is going to move it twice as far as what the first one did, but it's a smooth transition. It's like GV, I understand. It's kind of weird how this works, to be quite honest with you. When I go to G, if up down is 1, that was the first animation I showed you. Now GV up down is going to become 2. So really, GV up down is no longer 1, but it's not sending that first animation back. It's just triggering this animation to happen, and it's just what's causing it to scroll the same distance, but it's going up another piece, if that makes sense. Let me try to explain that one more time to you. So back here at 0, when we press it one time, it's going to do GV speed. When I do it again, it's going to do GV speed times 2. But in all honesty, it's just doing 2 clicks at the same distance. It's going up 1 click when GV up down is 1. It's going up another click when GV up down is 2. What is important is to have 2 animations, because I got 2 clicks. If you want 3 clicks, you're going to have to do 3 animations for up, 3 animations for down, 3 animations for left, and 3 animations for the right. That's why I'm sticking with just 2 clicks here, because your animations can get a little out of control. But what's important here is this. That second click, you want GV speed times 2. So let's look at all these other ones to make sure we understand this. Let me see here. Okay, I did the first 2. Which one is this? This is when GV up down is -1. This is dealing with our down movement. So when GV up down is -1, what angle do we want it at? I don't want to go 90 anymore. I want to go 270. That's what's going. Let me reset all this stuff back. When I play this animation, it's going to move it down 1 click. So notice I got ease, duration, all those are the same. This one's just plain old GV speed. All right. Now if I go to the second part of this, which is going to be this one right here. So now if GV up down is equal to -2, this is what I want to apply to this one. Notice the angle's still at 270 because we're going down. Check out the speed. GV speed times 2. So you can think about the number of clicks. This is like our second click down. Well, that's why I'm doing 2 times GV speed. Should you wish to apply 3 clicks or 4 clicks, you make sure you apply whatever that GV up down, whether it be positive or negative, make sure you do the 2 times that thing or 3 times that thing if it's your third click or whatever. Technically, I guess you can do as many clicks as you want. You can make this map as big as you want, and you can scroll for days if you want to, but I think 2 is plenty. All right, very similar. Oops, let me go back to the animation. Let's look at the left right. So this is the 2 clicks up, 2 clicks down. Now let's look at, I think this is going to be the right. So this is GV left right. If GV left right is 1, that's just 1 click to the right. I want to animate this thing based on just plain old GV speed because it's just 1 click. And then the angle is 180. I know the angles are kind of weird on KLWP, but when we move in, let me play this animation, it's going to move 1 click that way. I mean, I guess it technically is moving to the left. I guess that's why it's 180 degrees. That's kind of weird. I'm a math guy, but nonetheless, mess around with it. If 180 is not working, you want to move in the opposite direction, try 0. That should get you straight, or 360 for that matter. So notice that was just 1 click though. Let's go to the second one for that. So this is going to be GV left right equals 2. Well, if GV left right equals 2, remember, When we do 2 clicks, we want GV speed times 2. That's what's going to give us that same distance of travel, but it's going to be one more click to the right since GV left right is equal to 2. I hope this is making sense. And now for the last 2 pieces, that's going to be this one over here. So this is GV left right equal to -1. Tie in all your global variables. This is just going to be a plain old GV speed, and remember to change your angles depending on whether you're going up, down, left, right. Make sure you fix those angles. Let's see, and then I think there's one more, the last one, when GV left right is equal to -2. Get your angle, set your globals up, and then since this is 2 clicks, we want to do 2 times GV speed. Alright, so that's the whole setup. I don't think I missed anything. I talked about the size, I talked about the buttons. Again, if you want your map to be smaller, check out this. If I make the map a little bit smaller, so let's come in here and do size. Suppose we want our map like that. Alright, well, if we do it like that, what's going to happen? Of course, we can change our buttons and make our buttons a little bit closer as well. Oh, I didn't talk about this. I'm going to come back and talk about the progress in a second. Sorry about that. But since my window, my clip is smaller, if I start animating this thing, I'm not going to get to see nowhere near as much of the map as I truly could see. So what we're going to have to do there, if you created these things right, if we adjust our speed, and if you adjust this correctly, I want to see right about there somewhere, that right around 30. Remember, I had it at 25 at first. If we make this thing even smaller, but basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to be able to see all of your map within your window. And again, if I let me bump this down to like 1. Watch this. Let me save this. Okay, speed is down to 1. The map's barely going to move. 1 click. 1 click. Okay, well, hold up. Let me reset everything back to 0. Here we go. 1 click. You can barely see it move. 1 click. Because of our GV speed. So if I go right, you can barely be able to tell it's moving. So you definitely want to fix that, and that's why I've mentioned this GV speed thing. So I'm going to bump this on up, and now what you can do once you have it linked, if you have it set up right, you see how like that's way too much speed. If we back it down to where it's right about there, somewhere roughly around 30, if I save this, go back to the home screen in this small window, let me reset everything back to 0. Now it's going to move a lot more. Boom, boom. And much more than that, we would be seeing the edge of the map. Same thing to the right. Let's see if we see the edge of the map over there. See how we don't see the edge of the map? We don't see any black show up. But it's all about adjusting that GV speed, which depends on really how big you want your viewing window to be. Alright, so I hope that makes sense there. And now, finally, I did not talk about the progress. I do get some questions about progress from time to time, so thanks for hanging out to see this part. If you're not interested, then I guess this tutorial's done. But progress, what I have set up here is a custom progress. Min is 0, max is 20. And I had the level set to GV zoom. Remember, GV zoom went from 1 up to 20. And you have to mess around with this. I had to tinker around with this for a little while because I had min set to 1 at first, but what I found there is when I put this thing down to 1, and let me zoom in on the progress bar. So right now, boom. Okay, for example, right here, I would think my zoom set to 2. Because you see how we have 2 white bars and everything else is gray? Well, right now, GV zoom is 1. So I had to tinker around with that a little bit. And the only thing I had to do was set the min down to 0. And now notice I have 1 white bar showing. And notice I do have 20 sections. How did I get 20 sections? I just typed in 20. I guess that's because I got 20 different zooms. Remember, GV zoom does go from 1 to 20, unless I missed a number. Did I miss a number in there? I don't think so. Split progress, rotation, of course that's just up to you whether you want your bar to be vertical, horizontal, your style, adjust your sizes, colors, I have my foreground color as white, I have my background color as a gray, and I will call them back. Anyway, I have these colors, the white one showing where my level is and where whatever level I'm not on, I got it gray. But the big thing here was getting the progress to show when my zoom was at 1, I wanted one of my white bars showing. So when zoom goes to 2, as you can see, I have 2 bars, 3 bars, 4 bars. So this matches the zoom that I have perfectly. And then I'm sitting here thinking about it. This never dawned on me, but let me go back to my globals and make sure that I have a 1 through 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yep. Okay. So, like I said, little weird there. You know, even though we have 20 sections, you had to set that min. The min had to be set down to 0. But I was thinking minimum should be set to 1. But I don't know. I mean, that's what works for me. So give it a shot. See what works for you. Again, you know, the initial thing on some of y'all were not able to get the map stuff, the colors and all that. Again, I did recreate that based on that tutorial I did a while back. Make sure you're typing that stuff in exactly as I mentioned it. Make sure you put your pipes in there, your little bars. And the color, maybe the color wasn't working out because you have to have a 0x. I'm sure there's a workaround. You probably can tie in some global colors to that. I have not experimented with that too much. But yeah, there you have it. You know, a map that we can move around and scroll and zoom. And what else can we do? We can change the type of map that it is. So there's plenty going on here. Pretty cool. You got to have it in a preset, obviously, because of all the crazy animations. And that's it for this video. I hope it helped.